What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated, unified, WBC, IBF, welterweight, world champion, superstar boxer, Errol the True Spence Jr. had his showdown and his ring return, his highly anticipated ring return after a 14-month layoff after unifying the titles in September 28th against two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter. Just 12 days later, he suffered a horrific car accident October 10th, and everybody was awaiting the well-anticipated return of Errol the True Spence Jr. With that said, he did not have a tune-up fight, as many people thought that he should go into a tune-up fight. With that said, Errol Spence chose to go directly back to the top of the upper echelon of the welterweight division and face former two-time two-division world champion, former junior welterweight unified world champion, former WBC welterweight world champion superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia. This just took place December 5th, this past Saturday night. And we have a little bit of inkling, a little bit of insight, and reports have surfaced, some leaking, of just how well this pay-per-view event has done. The fight took place in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, Jerry World. Jerry Jones is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. This is the backyard of Errol Spence Jr. He was born in New York. He has the city and the state of New York behind him, but he represents the state of Texas. With that said, Errol Spence has reported to done well over 275,000 pay-per-view buys, and they feeling like that it will top out at about 315,000 pay-per-view buys. They feel like that's going to be the end number, the end game, okay? You're going to have media reports. They're reporting that Errol Spence has done 250,000+ pay-per-views with a revenue gross at the price at that price. If they would have done 250,000 pay-per-views at the price of $75, then the expected return is about $20 million of earning just for pay-per-views, right? This is not the fact that they opened up the stadium to allow 16,000 fans in attendance. So with that said, you got to factor in he's going to get money based off of the, ticket sales revenue, merchandise, food, things of that nature. Okay. Gates, live gates, and things of that nature. So it's going to do well over the earning number of $20 million. It's not a coincidence that media chooses to report the lowest possible number. At the least, they're expecting it to do 250,000 pay-per-view buys. So everybody's going to report the lowest possible number to downplay the success of the return of Errol Spence Jr. Why is this? I have no clue. But that is the lowest possible number. They didn't give you the top end number, right? So they're giving you the lowest possible number and then factoring in and stating that it could be over 250,000. Over 250,000 could be 400,000, right? It could be 251,000, right? No, from my reports and from what I'm being told, it's going to do at least 250,000, but they expect it to do somewhere around 315 to 320,000. That's right on par with what Errol Spence normally does. Okay, against 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia, which took place at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas as well. They did 350,000 pay-per-views. Against Showtime Shawn Porter in Staples Center in LA, they did 325,000 pay-per-views. So these numbers that are being reported are right on par. I did hear at one point in time that it could possibly top out at 360. But what I'm hearing now is they're expecting it to top out around 315 to 320. That is right in line with what he normally does, right? That 350 to 320 area, okay? And so with that, of course, people are going to report the lowest possible number because downplaying pay-per-view is in full effect. Everybody wants to end this pay-per-view, the reign of pay-per-view. And it's understandable. Everybody wants to go back to the old format of having these boxing matches take place on free TV. I love that format. I love that idea. I'm all for it. It's retro. I like that better. You know, you have it on free TV, so on and such. But guess what? In that format, the boxers yesteryear was not making anywhere near the amount of money they're making today's time. And those boxers from yesteryear also is struggling. You had guys like Joe Louis still working and being a doorman later in his career as he retired. You have guys like Leon Spinks. You know, these guys are having to do and go around the country and do meet and greets to earn money. Muhammad Ali, you know, they had to sell some of his merchandise and things of that nature, right? His memorabilia. They have so many boxers that are struggling after the sport of boxing. It's in their best interest to garner as much money as possible, but when they leave the sport of boxing, because guess what? There's nothing in place to help these boxers out. Simply nothing in place to help them out, to give them a leg to stand on once the sport of boxing comes to an end. Okay, their career are short-lived. Some may have 20-year careers, like Floyd Mayweather had a 20-year career, right? Floyd Mayweather garnered as much money as possible throughout his career. But, you know, Floyd Mayweather was an anomaly, right? You had Mike Tyson. He garnered a lot of money. But Mike Tyson, again, an anomaly. Most of these guys do not retire with $1 billion, with $500 million. That's not the case at all whatsoever. And so with that said, there's guys, you know, that are selling real estate, you know, working 9 to 5s, working at grocery stores. That should never be the case when you're dealing with boxers of this level. Every time they step through the ropes, they put their life on the line for our entertainment. So it's for their best interest to get to garner as much money as possible for their future after the sport of boxing. I know and meet so many boxers that are struggling today's time. It's not even funny. So everybody wants to go to format and let them perform in front of you and entertain you, but nobody worries about them after the sport of boxing is over with. They don't have a retirement plan. There's nothing set in place to help them financially when they retire. There's some boxers that are reportedly making $250 a month pensions. How can they live off of $250 a month from a pension? You see, so this is what's not being taken into consideration when everybody's quick to say, let's do away from pay-per-view, because you don't want to reach in your pockets and pay $49, $54, or $75 for a pay-per-view event. But they're putting their life on the line for your entertainment. And after the sport is over, when they can't talk, when they're slurring their words, when they can't pay their bills, when they're financially struggling, when they have to parade around and sell merchandise and sell memorabilia and sign autographs and sign gloves in order to make money, because nobody's worrying about them after the sport of boxing is over, because they didn't want to pay $75 for an event in a month, but they'll go spend $100 at a restaurant. But investing in the boxer's future for your entertainment is too much. A ticket, when you go to these events, okay, you're paying well over $75 for tickets and popcorn and soda. So imagine if you go to an event, a boxing event, and let's say you get the cheapest possible ticket. Let's say you get a ticket that's $50. You're going to buy popcorn. You're going to spend over $75. So why not just spend the $70? Why not worry about spending the $75 to put it in their pocket? Because guess what? No matter which way you slice it, you don't mind paying the venue and the promoters and the people in charge of the venue your money, but you don't want to make it possible to put it in the boxers' pockets who are directly entertaining you. Because these venues and these popcorns and hot dogs that's $15, and a bottle of water that's $8, and a bag of popcorn that's $12, that adds up to the $75. That going back into the venue. Why not, if you're sitting at home, you have the comfort of your own home, you make your own food, and you paying the pay-per-view of $75. So with that said, the lowest common number, the lowest number possible is going to be reported just to downplay, because they want to do away with pay-per-view. So they want to make it as if pay-per-view is not a success and that it's indeed a ripoff to the fans. And so this is what it's going to be portrayed as. But in return, the true number is that Errol Spence is going to top out over 300,000 pay-per-views, as he always does. Now, when you have the situation with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, this just proves that Errol Spence is indeed the pay-per-view star. We have the official numbers for Gervonta Tank Davis, undefeated, 2-division world champion, 4-time world champion, simultaneously holds the WBA lightweight at 130 and 135, superstar boxer that took on 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer Leo Santa Cruz. That topped out at 200,000 pay-per-view buys. So there is no question who the pay-per-view king is. It's Errol the True Spence Jr. Once again, well over 300,000 pay-per-view buys. He will do again a successful pay-per-view. He is the pay-per-view king. So with that said, in its totality, right? 2 fights. Terrence Crawford, undefeated, 3-division world champion. Currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who is considered the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world. His 2 pay-per-views, Amir Khan and Victor Postol, combined for a number of 210,000 pay-per-views. So he's not a big sell. He's not a draw in the sport of boxing, outside of hardcore boxing fans. So this is the biggest fight in the world that everybody wants to see, Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. Well, Errol Spence said that he'll make this fight at a 60-40 split. And he's right in doing so, because now he's done 3 straight successful pay-per-views, back to back to back. And he could be on the verge of going into another pay-per-view in another massive fight with 8-division legendary iconic superstar world champion, who is currently the WBA welterweight world champion, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, in the summer of 2021. That is going to do well over 350,000 pay-per-views. You can expect that at the very least to top off at 500,000 pay-per-views. So once again, Errol Spence will be doing another successful pay-per-view. That will be a unification bout. 3 belts will be on the line. More than likely, it'll take place in Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium, as they both fought there twice now. And they both are familiar with fighting there. They both have a fan base there. Well, Manny Pacquiao has a fan base all around the world, but they both have a fan base there, and it makes all the sense in the world. So when he says that he wants a 60-40 split with Terrence Bud Crawford, it just makes all the sense in the world, because Terrence Crawford is not fighting high-profile fights. Terrence Crawford just fought on free TV against Kell Brook, former IBF welterweight world champion British superstar boxer, on free TV, on the biggest sporting platform in the world, on ESPN. In a high-profile fight, and it only topped out at 2 million free views. Okay, Errol Spence's free TV view, before he was even a world champion, he was not considered the best welterweight in the world, and he fought on lower-profile opposition against Leonard Bundu. It topped out at 6 million free views. So it's no question, the proof is in the pudding, as Errol Spence put it. The numbers don't lie. The facts are the facts. Errol Spence is the bigger draw. He's the bigger star. 60-40 is a generous split for Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence. You got to think and take into consideration 4-division world champion, superstar, pound-for-pound king, Floyd Mayweather, who was already doing pay-per-view numbers when he took on Oscar De La Hoya, who already had multiple losses on his resume. Oscar De La Hoya took a 70-30 split over Floyd Mayweather, chose the ring size, chose the location, chose the gloves that Floyd Mayweather had to wear in the fight. And Floyd Mayweather said, I will accept everything you get thrown at me, because after I defeat you, I will be the king. And that's what Floyd Mayweather did. We had Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins took a 70-30 split with Oscar De La Hoya. Why? Because Oscar De La Hoya at the time was the bigger draw. Floyd Mayweather understood that. And once Floyd Mayweather defeated Oscar De La Hoya, he became the king. He became the biggest draw in the sport of boxing, and look at the trajectory that Floyd Mayweather went on. He ended up becoming a billionaire, breaking all pay-per-view records. He broke it with Oscar De La Hoya. Then he broke his own records with Oscar De La Hoya, with the likes of Canelo Alvarez, with Manny Pacquiao, and with Conor McGregor. Why? Because he understood that after I surpass Oscar De La Hoya, I'm going to be the king. I'm going to be the household name. So he needed Oscar De La Hoya to be that household name. This is what Terrence Crawford is missing. He needs to understand You entered into Errol Spence's division. He didn't enter in your division. Yes, you former undisputed at junior welterweight, but you don't have a high-profile fighter on your resume at any of the level of a Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia, if he fought Terrence Crawford today, would be the biggest fight, biggest name on his resume. Danny Garcia, if he fought Terrence Crawford today, he would be the biggest name, biggest fight for Terrence Crawford on his resume. If Sean Porter fought Terrence Crawford today, he would be the biggest fight, biggest resume on Terrence Crawford's resume. There's no doubt about it. And if you mention Kell Brook, Errol Spence has already defeated Kell Brook 3.5 years ago, but he did so by going to the UK in front of 70,000 hostile fans in hostile environment on foreign land in the UK when Kell Brook was a world champion at 147. Thus the reason why Errol Spence is the IBF champion. He went to the UK, defeated Kell Brook. Okay? Terrence Crawford defeated Kell Brook without any fans in attendance. 3.5 years since he made 147 weight limit. He came down in weight. He hadn't been in a high-profile fight since he got stopped by Errol Spence Jr. So it's just not the same guy. Now, I am of the belief that styles make fights, and Terrence Crawford would have beaten Kell Brook at any point in time in his career. But the facts are the facts. You can't turn back the clock. It is what it is. You got a version of Kell Brook that wasn't the same guy, and his punch resistance seemed not to be there. Although I think, like I said, that Terrence Crawford would have beat Kell Brook at any point in time. But the facts are the facts. He's not the same guy he was when he fought Gennady Golovkin and Errol Spence. He was a world champion, and Errol Spence went to the UK. He came to the States and fought without fans. Two different and completely different environments to fight in. So with that said, he just doesn't have the resume that Errol Spence has. He's not doing the numbers that Errol Spence is doing. So 60-40 is a sufficient split to make the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Let's make it happen. But you're going to get media that's going to give you the lowest possible number that Errol Spence has done. The bottom number. Nobody wants to give you, the ceiling. They want to give you the bottomest number, a flat number. So it generated 20 million. Take into account the concessions, the live gates, the ticket sales, these things have to be taken into consideration because Errol Spence is going to participate in that as well. Once you tally up all these numbers together, 16,000 fans in attendance. You got to keep in mind, I know 16,000 doesn't seem like a lot because it was AT&T Stadium and it holds 100,000 fans, but due to the pandemic and social distancing, only 16,000 was allowed to attend. But keep in mind, the MGM Grand only holds 17,000. So you add another 1,000 and he packed out the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. That's the number one fight venue in Las Vegas, the MGM Grand. So essentially he packed out the MGM Grand. So imagine if the MGM Grand was packed out, the ticket sales, the live gates and things of that nature. So combine that. He packed out the MGM in this fight and he did 300,000+ pay-per-view buys. So take that all into consideration, tally it up, and it's well over $20 million, and it's well over 250,000 pay-per-views. Understand that. So Errol Spence has proven every outing that he is indeed the new face of the sport of boxing. He is becoming a pound-for-pound king. He's already surpassing Terrence Crawford, in my opinion, as the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world because resumes will speak for itself. And he's the pay-per-view king. He's the biggest draw in the sport of boxing. So drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.